Webcast originally was meant to address primarily a European audience, but because of the urgency of the strategic situation, and since I'm presently nearby Washington, I decided to do this webcast in English. And I'm addressing myself to those of you who recognize that civilization right now is in mortal danger. It should be obvious to any thinking human being on this planet that the continuation of the present policies is possibly leading to the extinction of the human species. And I appeal to you, at least those who agree with me, to join the mobilization, to do everything in your capability to stop this danger of civilizational collapse. Now, it is not true that this catastrophe is inevitable. And in the beginning, before I go into some rather heavy material, I want to say, rule out the idea out of your thinking that one cannot do anything anyway. This sentence, which is the most spoken sentence in Germany, man kann ja sowieso nichts machen, one cannot do anything anyway. I don't want to address this situation from that standpoint. There are solutions, and they can be implemented in time, but it requires a very drastic and dramatic fundamental change of the system, of the global financial order, and an equally dramatic change in the thinking of most people. Now, we are confronted right now with two immediate crises. One is the immediate collapse of the transatlantic financial system, which is already leading to the collapse and the breakup of the euro, as we can see most clearly in the situation in Greece. But if Greece leaves the euro, which it will have to, it has no other choice, this will mean the breakup of the euro and, in all likelihood, the entire EU. Secondly, we have the immediate danger of a thermonuclear war triggered by the events around Syria and Iran, but not really focused on these two countries, but actually aiming at the regime change or destruction, disintegration of Russia and China. Obviously, what I'm saying here is not what you read in Bild-Zeitung or what you listen to in other mass media. But I can assure you, I would not say these things lightly. I'm trying to address the reality of the situation as it is, because only if you look at it in the most rational and most unblocked fashion can you find the necessary remedy. The name of the game is empire, or more precisely, British Empire. Now, I know that there are a lot of people who say, what, British Empire? It ceased to exist since a long time. But if you understand that the empire, which has been dominating the European and actually global situation for almost 4,000 years, has a tendency to come back in ever new clothes, in new shapes and forms like a slime mold. And this time it has another name called globalization. If you understand under British Empire the complex system of central banks, investment banks, hedge funds, private equity funds, insurance companies, the shadow banking, then you know what I mean by British Empire. It is that financial system which has been responsible for the paradigm shift in the last 40 to 45 years, shifting away from the production of physical goods, the so-called real economy, more and more to speculation, to the idea of profit maximization and pure monetarism. As long as the Soviet Union existed, that system of globalization had certain constraints because the Soviet Union existed as a second superpower. But when the Warsaw Pact started to disintegrate between 89 and 91, the world had reached a turning point. With the communist system gone, there would have been the chance for a new peace order of the 21st century. There was no more enemy, and one could have used the economic and scientific resources of the entire world to go for the solution of those urgent tasks of mankind which were then there and they still are, namely the elimination of hunger, the development of the underdeveloped sector, joint scientific breakthroughs to reach the next level of mankind's development. Instead, rather than the United States recognizing the chance to go back and reconfirm the principles of the American Revolution, which had made America to be a temple of liberty and a beacon of freedom, unfortunately, with the Bush senior administration, the neocons appeared and declared the New American Century Doctrine, which was the idea to run the world as an empire based on the Anglo-American special relationship. Now, we, from the international LaRouche movement, we had a plan, which was the Productive Triangle and later the Eurasian Land Bridge, which would have been the basis for such a peace order, which, however, for reasons which I shortly will mention, was rejected. At that time, the policy of regime change was adopted in every country which would not be willing to submit to this empire. Now, the first expression of such regime change was the first Gulf War, which started in August 1990, which was called Operation Desert Storm, which had the explicit goal to bomb Iraq back into the Stone Age, and it did. The policy this policy was interrupted between 1992 and 2000 in the 8 years of the Clinton administration, but it remained in the background in the form of the clean break policy, which was the idea of having regime change of every country not friendly to Israel, which was around even during the Clinton years, and as a clear response to the efforts of President Clinton to have peace in the Middle East through the Oslo Accords. It was adopted by the Netanyahu government then. And it came fully back with the Bush and Cheney administration, and all the time being pursued by the British government. Now, with George W. Bush Jr., who declared these countries to be the axis of evil, the next target was the Second Iraq War, which, as we now know, was based completely on lies, developed through MI5 and Tony Blair, and that was then the basis for the speech Colin Powell gave in the United Nations, which he later called to be the worst mistake he ever made in his life. Now, this was behind the war of aggression against Libya and the assassination of Gaddafi, because at that point the forces pushing these regime changes could not wait to put Gaddafi on trial, because they already had in mind a continuation of this campaign against Syria and Iran. A trial would have been too long, and Gaddafi may have told some very unpleasant details about his dealings with his previous collaborators. Now, this campaign is reaching Syria and Iran, and it has almost nothing to do with these countries, but it is aimed at Russia and China. And when you hear the stories about Syria and about Iran, you should have a déjà vu experience. It's the same accusations against Iran, what we heard about Iraq, and the recent report of the International Atomic Energy Agency that Iran would have the nuclear bomb maybe in 1 year, or be able to put its facility underground so that they would not be reachable anymore, is in complete contradiction to the US National Intelligence estimate from October 2011, where they confirmed the findings of the report's evaluation from 2007, that Iran had stopped its military nuclear program in 2003. And as many people also observed, the entire information the International Atomic Energy Agency used came from Western intelligence sources, and the former head of this agency, Hans Blix, also said that there was absolutely no new information given.